with breaking the wall of native bee recovery after bushfires.
I'm Dr. Kit Prendergast, and I'm breaking the wall of native bee recovery after bushfires. We exist in a biodiversity crisis driven by anthropogenic causes, including increasing fire frequency and intensity under climate change. This was brought to the fore during the 2020 Black Summer bushfires, which destroyed swaths of native vegetation across the country, harming our wildlife. To date, most bushfire recovery efforts have focused on cute furry vertebrates like koalas. But what about our native bees? Our native bees are crucial components of biodiversity, and through their role as pollinators, are important in the re-establishment and sustainability of our wildflower populations and entire ecosystems. Cavity nesting bees are predicted to be particularly hard hit by wildfires, as they rely on little holes in trees created by wood-boring beetles to nest in, and these can take decades to recover after bushfires. My previous research around Perth, using bee hotels, artificial nesting substrates, have found that native bees will occupy these and nest in them, with the offspring emerging to contribute to the next generation. But bee hotels had never been used in a bushfire recovery context. So I had the novel idea of doing just that. With a lot of help from my dad, we made 1,000 bee hotels, and I installed them in 5 areas that had been burnt by the 2020 bushfires and monitored them from September until March. To my relief, all this effort was not in vain. Over 830 nests were occupied. Based on my previous research, native bees produce an average of 4 offspring per nest. So that means, thanks to the bee hotels, an extra 3,200 native bees could potentially emerge and help with the recolonisation of post-fire habitats. Furthermore, my surveys in areas that had been burnt, but I hadn't installed bee hotels, found that there were significantly fewer native bees, further suggesting that thanks to the bee hotels, these were attracting native bees to the areas and allowing them to recolonise the sites. In conclusion, this world-first research provides a proof of concept that we can use bee hotels to help monitor and recover our precious native bee populations in a world of increasing fires. Thank you.
Absolutely incredible. Any questions?
Bees are really important as pollinators for agriculture too. So my question is, do you think this could be a citizen science project where people could actually come on board, and our farmers and other organisations that want to protect the environment could be doing this in all the relevant areas of Australia after bushfires?
Yes, certainly. And as part of my project, I did have a citizen science monitoring component as well. I've written a book for the general public on bee hotels and done videos for the general public. I've done workshops with kids. So bee hotels, they're really cheap, they're easy to make, and you can do them with kids, and they can be scaled across the country. It's not expensive, and it's really empowering that, you know, we can actually make a huge difference to our native bee populations.
Fabulous. Any other questions?
For the nice presentation. And in order to attract bees to these bee hotels, do you put something to attract them, or what do you do in order to make sure that they go to that bee hotels, not somewhere else?
Great question. So these cavity nesting native bees, they're unlike honeybees, and they are just looking for little holes to nest in. I've seen them nest in hose reels, in a little hole in a child's handlebars on a scooter. So they're just out there attracted to any little holes of the right diameter. So the hole diameter is really important, but my previous research installing bee hotels around urban areas in Perth optimised the ideal hole diameters to attract a diversity of these cavity nesting bees.
Fabulous. Thank you so much. Okay,